Hello there, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to see how to get started with Ollama and Semantic Kernel with C#. So before we get started, we need to install Ollama in our machine. If you don't know what Ollama is, please visit ollama.com. This is basically an easier way to run large language models in your machine. This is based on Llama CPP project, but with Llama CPP you have quite a bit of work you have to do to get up and running. But with Ollama, you can easily run in macOS, Linux, and Windows very easily. And you have almost all the open source models available here. And it is designed in a way that you can run multiple models at the same time. So you can explore multiple open source model here as well. So just check it out. Before following this tutorial, make sure you download and install the Ollama in your machine. And I have instructions on how to do this. If you have Ollama running, if you open the browser, you can verify what version of the Ollama you're running. I'm running Ollama version 0.3.6. There are other ways to run and check if the API is running. The API will be running in this URL, which is this port, which is 11434 port. Make sure you visit this URL in your browser or using the command line tool call, and you will get this output, which is Ollama is running. I can run it in my browser as well. As you can see, I get it. Ollama is running. So I have a CLI tool working and also the URL working. That means the Ollama server is also running. Make sure you have both of these running. And you can do that by following the download instruction. You go to download, and then if you're a Windows user, just download the Windows download and install it. And if you're a Linux user, you have a Linux command to run. And it's the same for the Mac OS as well. You have a Mac OS installer. It's pretty easy to get started. And once you get started, you have multiple models to choose from. I am going to use Llama 3.1. Just copy this command, Ollama run Llama 3.1, and this will download the model locally and run it for you in the command line. But we don't use the command line, we will use semantic kernel to call the model. So next is the semantic kernel. Semantic kernel is the SDK which is developed by Microsoft. You can see that it's under the Microsoft organization. It's an open source project, and it provides an easier way to connect to these LLMs with conventional programming languages such as C#, Python, and Java. We are just going to focus only on C# right now. It also has a bunch of plugins architecture, which will be very helpful for doing LLM-based application. And we are going to do a very simple getting started, but you can check out other examples here in different languages, however you feel like it. But the main thing with Ollama is that it also provides Open AI compatible server, which is running in this localhost 11434. So yeah, we are going to basically call these server endpoints to communicate with the LLM. If you go to the Ollama GitHub project, you will see by default there are two libraries provided by Ollama, which is Ollama Python and Ollama JS. So there is no default Ollama C# library, but there is a Ollama Sharp, which is a community project done by this guy, Andres. Just go and give it a star. It's an amazing project. It provides Ollama API bindings for .NET. So what you can do is just initialize the client and then select the model and start calling them Ollama APIs. Here are some examples for streaming and then chats. What we are going to do is we can also just start using it directly using Ollama Sharp. But this tutorial is going to focus on using Ollama through semantic kernel, because Ollama Sharp only provides binding for the API, but semantic kernel provides an application framework on how to build LLM applications like memory, plugins, and then tools support, which are essential when you're building some meaningful LLM applications. So let's create a simple C# project and see how to integrate semantic kernel and then Ollama Sharp and get some chat app running locally in few lines. Okay, so I'm going to create a very simple console application here. So I will copy this and then paste it here. .NET New console Ollama example, and I will cd into that folder. And as you can see, I have .NET 8, and let's add the packages, which is Microsoft.Semantic Kernel and Ollama Sharp. Okay, once we have added the packages, now let's open that in VS Code. Here I have an empty project with 2 package references and the empty CS console file. If you go back to my blog post, you will find a bunch of code where I asked you to update the program.cs. I will first update and then explain what's happening here. So let's see what's going on here. For first is we are using Ollama Sharp and semantic kernel and dependency injection. So I don't think I have to explain this. We are doing a kernel builder. This kernel is coming from semantic kernel, and we are creating a builder from the semantic kernel. And here I'm actually updating the Ollama API client. So I'm adding a scoped client with the URL http localhost 434, as you can see here. So this is the place where we are initializing our Ollama API client, and I'm replacing the chat completion service here with my own chat completion service. So by default, Ollama comes with, sorry, not Ollama, semantic kernel comes with a chat completion. So what I have done is I have implemented my own chat completion service called Ollama chat completion service, and I have added that to the dependency injection. And here we are building the kernel, and then we are getting the service which we just added back, and we are creating the history which comes from the semantic kernel. So this was what adds the context to your application, so that your application remembers the first question, the second question, and the third question. So you need some kind of way to keep the history going so that when you chat with the chatbot, it has all the context. And here we are adding a system message saying, hey, you are a very helpful assistant. This is basically providing system message to the chatbot. And I'm having a while loop which reads the line from the CLI and then adds the CLI question to the user message, which is basically our memory, and then calls the LLM with the history. History is basically a chat history. So we are basically sending the entire history to the LLM so that it understands better what's happening here, so that it understands the context of the question as well and gives back a response. I'm just not streaming it. I'm just waiting for the response to come back and displaying it once it's done. And then I'm adding the response to the history as well. So we will have a pretty good back and forth with the chatbot. I hope this is easy to understand. The next part is the Ollama chat completion service, which is pretty simple C# implementation of Ollama. Sorry, not Ollama, a pretty simple implementation of Ollama for the semantic kernel. And that is implemented here. So first I'll copy and then explain. Okay, so what do we have here? So here we have a Ollama chat completion service, which implements 2 methods: get chat message content async and the get stream chat message content async. And this is basically a helper method to change the role, and this is a helper method to create the chat message. And this is the important part where we are creating the chat message, where you can create a chat request with the messages saying, yeah, stream it, and then you are mentioning the model. So I already downloaded the model called Llama 3.1, so I'm going to use that. I am hard coding it here. You can change it however you want. For me to make things simple, I'm just hard coding the model number or model name here. Yeah, so we are going to use that model, and we are going to use that model to create the message. So here for the get chat message content async, the first thing is you create the request and you send that request to the chat endpoint, and you get the response back, and you just created the chat content message from the response. And it's the same for the streaming of chat, where you construct the same thing but with the stream. So again, not complicated, not anything fancy happening here. You just create a request and then call the API endpoint, and you get the response back, and from the response you construct the chat message content and then return the chat message content. And that's pretty much it, actually. So once you have this service ready, the program will call the get chat message content async and then get the response, and then we will communicate with our LLM. So first is, let's see if it runs. Yeah, so we have a U which says I will send a message saying where is Vienna. The first response might take a little bit of time for the model to load. Now we have the answer from the bot, which is Vienna is the capital of Austria, and I can say something like where is, or maybe tell me some fun facts about this place. So this, in the second question, we are not mentioning anything about Vienna, but instead I'm just saying, tell me some fun facts about this place. So it should understand from the previous message that, I'm talking about Vienna, and it should send me back some context about Vienna. So it's coming back with, yeah, so this is the question I asked. So here are the some facts about Vienna. So it understood the context that I'm talking about Vienna, and it gave some facts about Vienna. So opera house, Christmas market, cycling paradise, music lovers, coffee culture, everything is correct. But I'm not doing anything crazy here. I'm asking very basic questions, and LLMs are good at these basic questions. Maybe let's give it something complex. Give me the lat long of Vienna with Google Map link. Okay, it gave me this location with the link. Here's the Google Map link of the city center. Let's see if it goes to Vienna. Okay, it does go to Vienna. So yeah, so I think the Llama 3.1 is reasonably good for some basic question and answer kind of applications, and it's pretty easy to implement, and it understands the context pretty well. And this is something the semantic kernel excels in. So you can create these LLM-based applications with history and tooling and plugins. So maybe if you're interested in more videos similar to this, please comment on the video on what kind of things you're interested in. If I have time, I will try to make a video about them. Yeah, this is a very basic introduction on how to connect to a LLM with semantic kernel and C# and have a very useful bot. Yeah, so this is just a getting started guide. You can do a lot of other things as well if you have the tools working and the plugins working. So I would say go and look at how the process works, on how prompts work, how planners work, and semantic kernel has quite a bit of examples in the notebook here. So how the planner work, how the memory and embedding work. So you can, most of them are in C#. If you understand C#, you can actually easily understand most of the code or what's happening here. Yeah, so I hope you found this useful. I'm playing around with these LLMs, and I have few scenarios I will be interested in doing videos on. If you have any other scenarios you are interested in, feel free to comment in this blog post or in the video. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. I will see you soon in another video. Bye bye.